They discovered the shocking secret behind the stick that turned into a serpent. Few knew what truly happened that night. The air was electric, thick with a tension that seemed to pulse. In the heart of ancient Egypt, a land shadowed by towering pyramids and haunted by the whispers of gods, Moses stood, heart racing. The desert swallowed the last rays of the sun, leaving darkness to creep in. What was it that transformed his simple shepherd's staff into a writhing serpent? Moses clutched the staff tightly. His fingers traced the smooth wood, now tremulous with potential. He had been commanded to go before Pharaoh, to demand freedom for his people. But what would he say? What proof could he offer to convince a king who wielded power like a cruel god? The air around him crackled. It was said that a mere instrument held the power to divide the waters, to rain death upon the oppressor. But as he cast the staff to the ground, time seemed to slow. In an instant, the staff morphed, scales shimmering in the desert moonlight, the serpent's eyes glinting with an otherworldly intelligence. Gasps echoed in the distance. Was it a trick of the mind? Or did the divine truly dwell in that wood? Witnesses felt their hearts skip, whispered among themselves, caught between awe and fear. Had they truly seen such a miracle? Some scrambled backward, while others stared, mesmerized. The serpent coiled and slithered, a living embodiment of unshackled power. How could something so simple conceal such depth? The whispers grew still, turning to frantic murmurs of disbelief. Some said it was magic, others called it divine intervention. What truth lay behind the miracle? Would Pharaoh cower at such a sight, or would he laugh at the audacity of Moses demanding change? The stakes were high, as the fate of entire nations lay in the balance. Moses felt the weight of destiny shift with the flick of that serpent's tail, but then a chilling thought gripped him. What does one do with such power? Was he chosen, or was he merely a pawn in a greater game? The night stretched. The air chilled, and fear prickled at the back of his neck. He had a serpent at his feet, but now questions coiled tighter than any snake could. Hey, before we continue with this amazing story, I need to give you an important heads up. Many subscribers have reported that YouTube unsubscribed them without warning. Take a quick second to check the red button below to make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. I'd hate for you to miss any of the exclusive content coming soon. And while you're there, smash that like button, it really helps me out with the algorithm. Oh, and tell me in the comments, which city are you watching from? I love getting to know every amazing person who's part of this community. Your participation makes all the difference. Let's connect. Moses stood at the edge of the abyss, a silence enveloping him like the cloak of night. The serpent, a creature both feared and revered, lay coiled at his feet, a potent symbol of authority and rebellion intertwined. As he bent low, he felt a shiver run through the earth beneath him, vibrating with ancient energy and unyielding purpose. The staff had transformed, yet he could not shake the sense that it had always harbored such power, simply waiting for the moment to be unleashed. That he glanced around, searching the faces of those who had gathered, kinsmen and strangers alike, all caught in the same whirlwind of despair and hope. To them, this was not merely a demonstration of might, it was an invocation of freedom. The air buzzed with anticipation, the promise of deliverance lingering like sweet incense. Yet, Moses pondered, were they ready to embrace the weight of that freedom? Did they understand the journey that lay ahead? Suddenly, the serpent unfurled, its muscles rippling, and its head lifted high as if seeking the gaze of the heavens. Moses instinctively took a step back, but a thought rooted him in place. This was not just a creature, it was a messenger, a connection to the divine, a harbinger of his calling. In the chaos of doubt, he felt an unyielding whisper within, urging him to trust, to act and speak boldly, even as uncertainty slithered around him. Would Pharaoh heed this sign? Would he perceive it as an omen or as a challenge to his authority? Moses' heart raced as he envisioned the throne rooms, the opulence and arrogance, where power was displayed brazenly, infectious and conceited. In that moment, he understood that true strength lay not in the might of a serpent but in the vulnerability of one who stands for what is right. With deliberate care, he reached for the serpent again, feeling the coolness of the scales through the essence of the staff. He pulled it towards him, drawing strength from the miracle before him and the weight of his purpose. In this delicate balance of fear and faith, he sensed a parallel. The serpent bore both danger and healing, just as freedom could lead to chaos or harmony. Suddenly, the sunlight began to creep over the horizon, painting the sky with hues of gold and hope. This transformation echoed the shift brewing within Moses. It was a dawn of realization, a recognition that he was not isolated in this fight. With each heartbeat, he felt the ancient promise lingering on his tongue, the covenant that had once been spoken to his ancestors whispering through time. The gravity of his task settled over him was to confront the embodiment of oppression, and yet within him flickered a vessel of divine purpose. What force could stand against him if he moved with integrity and conviction? Was it not written in the heart of every oppressor that they themselves feared the very freedom they imposed upon others? As the first rays of sun illuminated the desert, casting shadows that danced like wavering spirits, Moses took a deep breath and resolved to take his next steps with courage. The serpent remained a reminder, both of the journey and the transformation awaiting not only him but all who would follow. But as he turned to face his people, a lingering question echoed softly in his heart: would they have the faith to follow him into the unknown, or would fear bind them tighter than the chains of their bondage? As the sun climbed higher, casting its brilliant light across the gathered assembly, Moses felt the weight of their expectant gazes. The air was thick with unspoken desires and dreams deferred, a stark contrast to the promises of liberation that danced like flickering shadows in their minds. Their faces reflected a tapestry of emotions: hope, skepticism, fear, and yearning, all intertwined in the intricate fabric of their shared oppression. Moses gripped the transformed staff, its coolness pulsing against his palm like a heartbeat of resolve. It was no longer just a tool, it had become a vessel of possibility. Was there a deeper truth hidden within its power? In that moment, he recalled the stories of his ancestors, the tales that spoke of signs and wonders, of sacred moments where divine interaction reshaped destinies. Could this staff, once merely a shepherd's tool, be a bridge to such a reality? He stepped forward, feeling the desert ground shift beneath him as if urging him on. "People of Israel," he called, his voice steady yet infused with an underlying tremor of urgency. "The God of our fathers has seen our suffering. He has sent me to lead you out of this land, to be our deliverance." A ripple of murmurs swept through the crowd, each soul grappling with the gravity of his declaration, but in the back of his mind, doubt lingered like a shadow. What if the serpent was a reflection not just of their oppressor, but of their own fears? Would they see strength in his actions, or would they recoil from the confrontation that lay ahead? He took a deep breath, allowing the sacred silence between his words to resonate deeper. As if sensing the shift in the atmosphere, the serpent's scales seemed to shimmer, reflecting the emerging light. Moses felt a stirring within him, as if the serpent was imparting knowledge or wisdom beyond his comprehension. It was not merely a show of power that he was called to present, but an invitation for transformation, a reminder that true change often begins internally. "Look upon the staff," he beckoned, raising it high, the serpent poised and alert. "This is our strength. What do you see?" The people strained forward, their eyes wide. Some were captivated by the miraculous, while others questioned the wisdom of a confrontation with such a fearsome symbol. In the midst of their divided hearts, a voice rang out from the crowd, a woman, her face marked with both weariness and courage. "Moses, we have endured so long. Can we trust in the unseen? Can this serpent lead us to freedom?" Moses held her gaze, feeling the profound depth of her inquiry. To trust in the unknown was an arduous task, a feat of faith that demanded both surrender and bravery. He recalled his own struggles with doubt, the private battles fought in the depths of his heart. "Trust is the first step," he responded, his voice softening. "Just as the serpent was once a refuge, a symbol of safety, it has now become a sign of our fight. We must embrace the duality of our journey, the strength to confront and the vulnerability to heal." As the words settled among them, a palpable shift coursed through the assembly. The murmurs grew louder, voices rising in solidarity, yet uncertainty still hung in the air. Would they be able to relinquish their past and grasp a future that remained cloaked in mystery? Moses knew that this was merely the beginning, the threshold of a greater journey. The serpent had not only revealed their potential for power but also brought to light their fears and hopes. In its gaze lay the reflection of their collective spirit, a force of upheaval and harmony. As the brightness of day unveiled the vast stretches of desert ahead, a gnawing question lingered within Moses' soul, echoing through the minds of all who stood there: would they find the courage to rise and follow him into the unknown, or would the specter of past chains continue to hold them captive? Moses stood there, the staff extended before him, caught in an electric moment, suspended between fear and hope. The people gazed up at the serpent twisting majestically along his palm, its scales shimmering in the sunlight like a precious gem, yet it conjured sentiments as contrasting as the day and the night. A heavy silence fell over the assembly, broken only by the whispering winds that swept across the dry landscape. Each heartbeat echoed a question: what was their path forward? They were aware of their suffering, the burdens they carried on their backs like heavy stones. But freedom remained a distant land, a promise clouded by mistrust. Moses, sensing their hesitation, felt compelled to share the truth that had stirred within him ever since he encountered the burning bush. "This miraculous sign is not for display alone," he declared, gripping the staff with a newfound intensity. "It is a mirror of our own souls. We must confront the serpents, not just those we see as enemies but those within ourselves. The fear, the doubt. They too can transform." In a moment of instinct, he lowered his staff, preparing to cast it to the ground, knowing that its true power lay not in its form but in the faith he nurtured within. As the wood struck the sandy earth, it was as if a thunderclap resounded through the voice, a voice woven from heaven spoke in a tongue that transcended words. From the dust arose a cloud, swirling and twisting, enveloping the gathered people in a haze of profound mystery. The wind carried the fragrance of countless blossoms, untouched and radiant, while the dry desert air sparkled with an unseen vibrancy. Faces turned upward, illuminated not just by sunlight, but by something deeper, a flicker of understanding stirring from slumber. "Do you see?" Moses continued, voice rising above the unexpected wonder surrounding them. "The patterns of our lives are woven with threads of struggle. But just like this dust, our spirits are capable of transformation. What was once dead can flourish if we let the power of the divine guide us." With each word, the tension began to lift. Yet, amidst the awakening energy that rippled through the crowd, the woman who had spoken before raised her hand again, challenging yet hopeful. "Moses, can we really turn our fears into instruments of freedom? Can sorrow bring forth this promised joy?" The question paused the moment, once again throwing a veil of uncertainty over the assembly. Moses felt the weight of her inquiry, a truth that resonated in the chambers of his heart. "Yes," he replied, the authority of his belief swelling within him. "Transformation requires courage, a courage to face our past, to let the serpents of our lives reveal their hidden meanings." As he continued to speak, drawing from the depths of his conviction, the swirling wind grew more prominent, carrying a hint of melody, a whisper of ancient songs sung by generations long past. Perhaps it was their ancestors calling out to them, urging them to remember who they were beneath the suffering. Yet still, the collective spirit shifted precariously, an invisible thread tying their fears to the fabric of their past. Moses could sense their hearts grappling with the enormity of change, and the serpent coiled upon his staff seemed to mirror their internal struggle, poised between fear and awakening. In that shared moment, a deeper question unfurled within Moses' mind, coiling like the serpent itself. What if the path to liberation demanded not just action, but a deep exploration of their innermost battles? Would they dare to uproot the serpents buried in their souls to harness the divine power hidden within? As the heavens bore witness to their hesitance, Moses felt the desert wind ripple through him, crafting the words that would guide them forward. But would they have the audacity to summon the strength to transform the fear into faith, allowing the unseen mastery of their destinies to lead them toward the freedom they so desperately sought? As the crowd stood transfixed, the energy swirling around them had not only stirred their hearts but had begun to reveal a hidden truth, like the sun unveiling the gems buried beneath the earth. The fragrance of blossoms persisted in the air, their beauty a fleeting symbol of hope in a harsh landscape. Moses could feel the sacred tension in the atmosphere, a divine invitation to delve deeper into the mysteries of faith and the struggle that lay ahead. "Listen," he urged, raising his voice as the whispers of the ancestors faded into silence. "The serpent does not only represent the fears we battle, but also the wisdom that arises through those very confrontations. It is the cycle of life, the shedding of old skins for new beginnings. In our darkest moments, we can find the brightest light. The woman who had voiced her doubts stepped forward, her brow furrowed with contemplation. Moses, if we call upon this power, what if we fail? What if the serpents we confront consume us rather than liberate us? The honesty of her fear resonated with many, and a murmur swept through the assembly, fingers clutching at scarves and shawls as they grappled with the vulnerability of the unknown. Moses breathed, unlocking another layer of revelation. It is precisely in the facing of our fears that we can begin to understand their limitations. The serpent doesn't simply seek to strike, it teaches about the fragility of life. Each time we confront it, we strip away that which holds us back, uncovering the strength lying dormant within us. As he spoke, the staff throbbed with a palpable presence, the serpent swaying gently as if it understood the language of spirit. In a heartbeat, it twitched, a flicker of movement stirring the sand at their feet. For a moment, Moses thought he saw it flicker, transforming into something more vibrant, something alive with divine energy that beckoned him to trust in the extraordinary hidden in the ordinary. Moses recognized that the path to their calling would not be easy. An image of the desert stretched before him, vast and unyielding, and he considered the journey they had yet to undertake. Wilderness does not simply signify despair, he proclaimed. It is the crucible within which our faith is forged. Just as the serpent learns to shed its skin, so shall we learn to shed our doubts. A spark ignited amongst the crowd, reflected in their glistening eyes, yet uncertainty lingered. An older man, lean with the lines of years carved into his face, raised his hand with an air of quiet authority. But what if, in shedding that skin, we lose parts of ourselves? What if the very nature of our struggle is all we know? The murmurs roared back to life, fears entwined with soil and sweat, mixing with the fragrance of blossoms. Moses felt the weight of their apprehensions pressing against him, an intimate portrait of humanity's struggle with the familiar and the unknown. It is natural to fear losing parts of ourselves, he answered the elder, his voice steady, but we must trust that what is meant to fall away shall only make space for what is meant to grow within us. As they stood amidst the profound tensions of their questions, the winds shifted. The desert now seemed to weave a different melody, one of premonition. It whistled through the rocks, telling tales of freedom and fate, yet the ominous tone lingered in the air. Would they listen not just to the encouragement of transformation, but also to the deeper echo of their histories, woven into the very fabric of their fears? Moses felt the ground beneath him shift, a silent tremor that resonated through the hearts of the gathered. Could the ancient spirits be urging them toward a discovery hidden in plain sight? Would they be brave enough to explore the truths that lay entangled within their fears, to unearth revelations that could set them free? As the day wore on, light began to fade, but questions echoed louder within him. What does it truly mean to transform? And how can a single act of faith unlock the profound mysteries that lay buried beneath a lifetime of fear? The gathering remained charged with anticipation, shadows lengthening as dusk draped itself over the assembly like a soft shroud. The fading light painted the horizon in hues of violet and scarlet, a firm reminder that endings often herald new beginnings. Moses glanced across the sea of faces, each framed by the encroaching darkness. Willful, trepid, and yet searching, fellow seekers, he began, his tone reverberating with a newfound urgency. There exists a lesson in the mystery of the serpent, one that spirals deeper than the surface of our fears and doubts. We may perceive the serpent as a harbinger of chaos, but could it also symbolize a sacred connection to the Creator? What if this transformation we fear so deeply is, in fact, an invitation to reclaim our full selves? The woman's questioning gaze burned into him, prompting Moses to weave a narrative that intertwined the threads of doubt and revelation. In the beginning, the serpent represented knowledge, and with knowledge came power, a path forged through doing. In our pursuit of faith, we are asked to dig deeper, to unearth the beauty hidden in our struggles. Even as we shed parts of ourselves, we rise anew, infused with wisdom. Each encounter makes the serpent less a monster and more a guide. He raised the staff high, and the serpent upon it appeared to shimmer, radiant even in the dying light. As the crowd watched, he resolved to embody the truth he spoke. As we prepare for the wilderness ahead, let us embrace this reminder of transformation. A serpent did not merely take an exiled path, it surged forward, confronting its reality. We too must venture forth, embracing our shared destiny, no matter how daunting. Moses felt an odd tremor in his hand as he held the staff aloft. The serpent began to pulse with an ethereal energy, its scales shimmering with a golden glow that mirrored the sunset. He thought of each person looking up at him, each with a story tangled in the roots of their fears. What if the true essence of this staff lies not in wielding it as a tool for power, but in how we allow it to guide us to our own inner truths? As the night settled, a palpable silence enveloped the crowd. The wind carried an old whisper through the Denise, a distant echo of the ancient struggle, a reminder of the myths sown into their souls. The mysterious force around Moses grew stronger, as if the earth itself conspired to unveil deeper revelations. Yet doubt still clung tightly to the hearts before him, flickering like candle flames caught in a draught. Then, a girl, no older than a child of 10, stepped forward, her eyes wide with innocence and wisdom beyond her years. "But Moses," she called, her voice ringing clear in the cool night air, "if the serpent shows us the way, what if we find a path we do not wish to travel? What if the wilderness changes us in ways we cannot foresee?" Moses paused, contemplating her words. The sincerity of her innocence struck a chord within him. The questions of fate intertwined with courage, the laughter of joy danced with shivers of uncertainty. This was the very essence of their journey, the unknown, not as punishment, but as a canvas for them to trace their own narratives. That he sought to respond, grateful for her profound insight. "Indeed, child, that is the essence of our journey. The wilderness will change us, not in the form of loss, but as a passage to deeper understanding. Yet, perhaps the most sacred knowledge is that one can choose how to shape that change. What if embracing the wilderness means treasuring the lessons engraved in each struggle? What if this journey, intimidating and vast, serves as a chance to discover who we are destined to be?" As stars began to twinkle overhead, sparkling like fragments of hope peppered across the night sky, Moses realized their quest was just beginning. So, I ask you, all of you, what does it mean to journey into the unknown? What profound transformations await us as we learn to navigate the wilderness of faith and self-discovery? He could feel the energy of the crowd shift, intrigued yet hesitant as the sweeping mysteries unfolded before them. Would they embrace this call to adventure and self-exploration, or retreat into the familiar shadows of their doubts? The night deepened, cloaking the assembly in a veil of shimmering stars, each twinkling light resonating with the hopes and fears entangled in the hearts of the people. A sense of collective breath hung in the air, as if the very atmosphere responded to Moses's call for introspection. The moment was thick with purpose, yet fraught with the burden of uncertainty. Moses lowered his staff, feeling its weight as a symbol beyond mere wood and symbol. With it, he sensed an ancient wisdom coursing through him, a thread tying the present to forgotten eras steeped in mystery. "You are right, my child," he said softly, turning to the girl who had dared to question. "The wilderness is a great unknown, filled with both dangers and revelations." From the crowd emerged a man whose face was weathered like sun-baked clay, age carved into the lines of his forehead. "But is it not the serpent itself that brought forth our separation from the garden?" he interjected, his tone tinged with the rust of old grievances. "Did it not whisper temptation and thus lead us from grace?" Moses felt the tension spark like flint against fire. Ah, but what if that very act was not a curse but a prelude to freedom? The serpent did not strip us of grace, it unveiled a truth we had yet to grasp. Could it be that knowledge leads us not just to suffering, but also to liberation? The air pulsed with the energy of his words, yet the shadow of doubt still loomed. Questions bubbled like springs emerging from unseen depths, forcing deeper introspection within the assembly. What is this knowledge if it fosters division? Another voice called, a worried whisper weaving through the assembly. Moses lifted his gaze, summoning the strength of the ancestors who had journeyed before him. "What divides us can also bind us," he declared, his voice unwavering. "Consider that the serpent, known for shedding its skin, teaches us that renewal is born from separation. In the act of losing, we may also discover an opportunity to redefine purpose. The ground trembled beneath their feet and excitement flared in the hearts of those gathered, yet uncertainty plucked at the strings of collective conscience. As if in response to Andrew's doubts, a light breeze danced around them, carrying the scents of night-blooming flowers, fragrances woven into the very fabric of creation. What if the wilderness is the path of revelation? Moses asked, letting the question linger in the crisp evening air. What would it reveal, Moses? The girl asked again, her curiosity shining brighter than the stars above. Perhaps, he pondered aloud, it would reveal the essence of our struggle, that stepping into the unknown is not an act of recklessness, but an essential pilgrimage, a calling to strip away our fears and unveil our true selves. The serpent beckons us to engage with our inner chaos, not to succumb to it. Just then, a tremor of wind swirled around Moses, brushing against him as if the atmosphere itself were affirming his words. He glanced at the staff. The serpent, once an instrument of division, now appeared aflame with the brilliance of understanding. In the journey towards uncertainty, we encounter the layers of our beings. Each challenge faced in the wilderness becomes a teacher if we remain open to learning. Across the landscape, faces turned thoughtful, some nodding, while others remained etched in skepticism. Moses could feel the shifting currents of faith in the gathering, an ebb and flow that mirrored the unpredictable tides of the sea. Let us not fear the wilderness, for it offers the gift of transformation. Each of us has the power to choose how we encounter the uncertainties ahead. As a hush enveloped the crowd once more, the girl raised an eyebrow, her young innocence juxtaposed against the weight of ancient questions. But Moses, what if we lose ourselves along the way? How can we be certain of our path? In the stillness that followed her words, he realized the struggle of the human experience, a tapestry woven from threads of certainty and doubt. Each step into the wilderness may lead us astray, yet it is the very act of wandering that illuminates our essence. What if being lost is part of the discovery? What if in the chaos, we find the thread of divinity that ties us all together? As the starlight glimmered above, tinged with the soft glow of anticipation, Moses felt an indescribable sense of belonging within the vastness of the universe. He looked out over the assembly, a wave of unity wavering before him, yet still ripe with unanswered questions. What if our greatest transformation lies not in reaching our destination but in embracing the journey itself as sacred? He mused. A question lingered in the air among them: could they, in their deepest uncertainties, embrace the full spectrum of life's mysteries and emerge transformed? As the echoes of Moses' words faded into the stillness, a flicker of movement caught his eye. From the outskirts of the assembly, an elderly woman, her hair silver as the moonlit night, stepped forward, leaning heavily on a gnarled walking stick that mirrored the staff of Moses. A hush fell over the crowd, for she was known by all as Miriam, the sister of Moses, a prophetess in her own right whose stories intertwined with the very fabric of their history. Moses, she called, her voice resonating with a rusted authority. What you speak of is true, yet I wonder if we have forgotten the power that comes from honoring what was left behind. The wilderness is not merely the unknown, it is also a keeper of memories. Moses nodded thoughtfully, for he knew of the stories she carried, the pain and joy encapsulated in their shared ancestry. Yes, dear sister. What do you believe those memories hold? With a glance that spanned the assembly, Miriam allowed her thoughts to unfold like petals of a blooming flower. In the wilderness, we encounter the ghosts of our past. They haunt us, yes, but they also guide us. The serpent that once struck fear into our hearts may have been a guide to deeper understanding. Her words stirred a restless energy among the people. Could the serpent, when transformed, symbolize our struggles and the paths we must face? She continued, pressing on. Every trial we have endured since leaving the garden, the struggles of identity, the ache of separation, has been part of our sacred journey. Why then must we fear our own reflection in the serpent? A murmur rippled through the gathered ones, each faced with their own inner serpent fears coiling around them, memories of heartbreak and loss. Moses felt an awakening of recognition among them, as if a door had cracked open to what lay beyond their immediate fears. Tell us more of this journey, Miriam, a voice called from the back, emboldened by the courage of the prophetess. How can we navigate the chaos that plagues us? Miriam smiled gently, the shadows of her own trials evident within her gaze. The journey is not solely external, it is deeply internal. Each one of us carries the wilderness within a landscape of doubt, hope, dreams, and sorrows. Like the serpent, we must learn to shed our skins, to relinquish the emotions that no longer serve us, to emerge renewed. It is in this shedding that we embrace the sacredness of our existence. A sonorous silence enveloped them, the weight of her declaration hanging palpably in the air. A young man stood up, the flicker of doubt still clinging to him. But how can we trust in this process? What if we lose ourselves in our own shedding? Miriam turned her gaze towards him, eyes glistening like dew. Trust, dear child, is forged in the fire of uncertainty. Remember, the serpent is not just a symbol of fear, but one of transformation. Our relationship with the unknown is what teaches us resilience. When we embrace our losses, they illuminate the richness of our being. This transformation is a series of awakenings. Each loss opens the door to new understanding. Moses observed the transformative power of her words as they danced among the crowd. Hope began to flicker in the hearts that had felt the chill of doubt. Yet, a shadow still lingered at the edge of consciousness, and with it, the profound question of their journey loomed larger. What if our losses in this wilderness do not only transform us but also sever the ties we hold to one another? The young girl asked again, her voice steady but laced with concern. Miriam and Moses exchanged a knowing glance, understanding that the fears of disconnection and isolation were genuine. In our deepest depths, the wilderness reveals truths that bind us, Moses replied slowly, but it also brings forth challenges that force us to grapple with what it means to be together while struggling apart. Miriam nodded in agreement. Remember, true connection is forged not in the absence of struggle but in navigating the unseen binds that tie our stories together. The wilderness may tempt us to wander, yet the light of our unity will always guide us back. The atmosphere shifted once more, echoing with the resonance of a collective heartbeat, as silence laid its gentle hand over them. The stars above twinkled like ancient eyes, watching as if aware of the fragility yet enduring nature of their hope. Moses felt the weight of responsibility settle heavily in his chest, a pulsing reminder of the journey ahead. Would they find the strength to embrace their losses, to navigate the wilderness of their fears together? As they pondered these uncertainties, a new question found its place in the quiet night, a question that lingered like a star shining its light through the vast darkness. In the dance of shedding and renewal, how will we remain anchored to each other in the face of our deepest uncertainties? As the stars twinkled above in their eternal vigil, the assembly remained deeply immersed in the contemplation sparked by Miriam's profound revelations. The night grew thick with anticipation, and the air hummed with an unspoken urgency, beckoning each soul present to wrestle with the essence of their existence. Moses, sensing the spiritual gravity of the moment, turned to his sister with a heart full of gratitude. Your wisdom has illuminated pathways unseen. But what if we stumble in the shadows of our own fear? What if the serpents that lurk within turn on us? Miriam's expression changed, revealing an ancient understanding that dwelled deep within her spirit. Ah, dear brother, to fear the serpent is to fear our own narratives. We must understand that within the coil of each serpent lies the potential for revelation. The true challenge is not to eliminate fear, but to embrace it, to transform it into a catalyst for true awakening. An elder man, his voice quavering like wind through autumn leaves, interrupted with a cautious inquiry. Miriam, what if as we embrace these fears, what unfolds is not transformation, but chaos? If the wilderness is a mirror, what if we see only the desolation therein? Miriam met his gaze with empathy and resolute strength. Chaos, like the wild desert storm, may indeed shake us to our core. However, it is often through chaos that we encounter the redemptive power of clarity. In our turmoil, we may uncover bonds we never knew existed. Each tempest serves as a mentor, guiding us to build resilience where we might have faltered in complacency. Moses listened intently, feeling the weight of each word settling into the very marrow of his bones. He began to piece together the subtleties of this sacred journey. Our most harrowing moments might just serve as markers on the map of our pilgrimage, leading us to the heart of understanding. Could we truly gather strength from what seems lost? A murmuring agreement rippled through the assembly, yet fear still lingered like vapor in the air. From the shadows, a voice rose, steady yet soft. What if we risk losing our way amidst the chaos? What if in shedding our skins, we become unrecognizable not just to ourselves, but to one another? Miriam smiled, her eyes glistening with a wisdom only time could impart. Ah, but therein lies the grace of transformation. Each cyclical shedding reveals not only our vulnerabilities but the latent strength we carry. In recognizing the beauty of our fragility, we find the strength to reforge connections. The wilderness, though daunting, can be a sacred ground of rebirth. A young woman, emboldened by the collective wisdom, spoke next with a newly found clarity in her heart. And if the serpent, our old fears, shows us what we must confront to become more fully ourselves, then how do we ensure that the voice of that serpent doesn't drive us into despair? Moses nodded slowly. Each time we face our fears, we must anchor ourselves in the stories that keep us whole and alive as a community. The serpent teaches us the balance between caution and courage. It compels us to listen to the deeper resonance of our hearts, to trust that we are never truly alone. The silence that followed was heavy, laden with questions that loomed like clouds over a horizon, a mix of doubt and hope unfulfilled. Miriam noticed the flickering embers of resolve in her people's eyes. Reflect on this: chaos can be a crucible for unity or division. The choice lies with us. Let us commune through our stories, for they dance in harmony, binding each heart together. With each word, the assembly felt the shadows dissipate, revealing the faint outlines of possibility. Yet within that flickering light resided deep uncertainties about what lay ahead. Moses, feeling the pulse of collective yearning, asked, "What must we unlearn about ourselves to embrace this journey of evolution? Will we choose to perceive the wilderness as our enemy or as the harbinger of our most profound transformations?" As the assembly pondered these questions in the quiet of night, the stars twinkled as if responding, and a new reflection emerged, one that reverberated in the hearts of all present. In confronting our deepest fears and shedding the skins of our past, how will we ensure that we do not sever the very bonds that bind us together? As dawn's light began to pierce the horizon, painting the sky in brilliant shades of gold and amber, a profound stillness enveloped the assembly. Moses stood at the precipice of a revelation that shimmered like the morning sun, illuminating the truths buried deep within the hearts of the gathered multitude. The serpents of fear and doubt had coiled tightly around their existence, yet here amid the chorus of spirited dialogue, there lay a palpable energetic collective acknowledgement of the journey they were about to undertake. That I end this sacred moment, as the first beams of light kissed the desert sands, Moses lifted his staff once more, feeling the undeniable connection coursing through him. The serpent, glistening and alive, became a symbol not of division but of unity and transformation. "People of Israel," he called, his voice carrying the weight of generations. "The dawn of a new day is upon us. The serpent that once struck fear into our hearts now invites us to see our shared struggle, to unveil our greatest truths." The crowd stirred, the murmurs of uncertainty melding with newfound hope. Mothers swayed their children in their arms, fathers held their wives close, and the collective heartbeat of the people pulsed stronger. This was not merely about leaving behind the shackles of their oppression, it was an invitation to embark on a journey of self-discovery that would redefine their very essence. Moses sensed the shifted glimmer of courage igniting in their spirits. "The wilderness we face is not merely a physical landscape," he declared. "It is the very soil of our existence. Each setback and sorrow serves as a pathway to revelation. The lessons of the serpent hold within them the promise of redemption, the power to turn our fears into our guiding truths." From the gathering emerged a chorus of voices, inspired and emboldened by hope. They began to share stories of their own serpents, their fears, their pains, and the memories that had long plagued them. A woman spoke of her lost son, a man shared the burden of guilt from choices that haunted him, and the young girl marveled at the uncertainties that lingered like shadows in her young heart. Each tale became a thread, weaving a tapestry of resilience and shared humanity. Emboldened by their expressions of vulnerability, Moses felt his resolve deepen. "Together, we stand at the cusp of transformation. Our serpents do not have to constrict us, instead, they can guide us through the darkest valleys toward the light of our liberation." He paused, allowing the weight of his words to settle. Will we confront these serpents together? Will we embrace the potential for renewal that lies within each struggle? with a heartbeat that resonated with the pulse of the earth, the assembly erupted into a unified declaration, a chorus of voices cracking through the lingering doubt. They rose, hands clasped, hearts aligned. Yes. We will confront the serpents. We will journey through the wilderness together. As their voices filled the vast, empty desert, a bolt of divine energy seared through the atmosphere, a magnificent testament to the power of collective faith and belief. It was in that moment of unity that the final transformation began, one not just of their present reality, but also of their legacy. Like the snake shedding its skin, they let go of the identity rooted in suffering, welcoming a new essence that spoke of potency and purpose. The sun climbed higher, illuminating their faces with warmth and grace. In that divine light, Moses understood that they were not only rising from oppression, they were also shedding the remnants of fear that had long held them prisoner. Each step they would take into the wilderness would not be a retreat but a bold forward march into the unknown, an enactment of faith where every moment of struggle held the potential for divine revelation. In an act of holy urgency, Moses raised his staff to the sky and proclaimed, "Let us forge a covenant with one another. Let us pledge that we will not forget the lessons learned from our serpents. We will face the darkness together, and we will emerge into the light not just as individuals, but as a community reborn." The people responded with resounding shouts, motivated by a power that surged within them, a promise made in the fire of their trials and the brilliance of their transformation. Together, they would navigate through both wilderness and foe, emerging into the vast expanse of their shared destiny, and so, they began to move, as a single entity across the sun-drenched desert. The serpent upon Moses' staff shimmered brightly, now a beacon for all who chose to trust in the unseen path ahead. They understood that within each challenge lay an invitation to discover their own strength and wisdom. As they journeyed forth, liberated from the weight of their pasts and unaware of the trials yet to come, they carried with them the powerful revelation that their spirits intertwined within the fabric of existentia, tapestry crafted from fear transformed into faith and despair blossoming into hope. The wilderness awaited, but they would meet it not with trepidation, but with open hearts, empowered by the belief that the path of rebirth often requires the shedding of the old. It was not merely a migration towards liberation, it was the dawn of a new identity, one steeped in courage, resilience, and the unwavering promise that they were forever intertwined in their shared humanity. As the sun ascended and the desert winds began to weave around them in jubilant dance, the multitude moved forward, ready to embrace every daunting twist and turn. They became the tapestry of the divine, the embodiment of faith that echoed beyond the horizon, a reflection of the eternal truth that every ending lights the way to new beginnings. This revelation transcended realms, transforming the very essence of existence, reminding all of the power found in unity, the ultimate testament to the resilience of the human spirit.